Welcome to Globewise Entertainment. Today we're digging up some terrifying treasures from the past, the 10 forgotten 1950s horror movies that changed everything. These are the eerie, underrated, and absolutely wild cult classics that helped shape modern horror as we know it, but most people have never even heard of them. From radioactive monsters to alien invaders lurking in plain sight, these films didn't just scare audiences, they redefined what horror could be. So if you love deep dives into lost cinematic gems, you're in the right place. If you haven't subscribed to Globewise Entertainment yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button and join our movie-loving community. And tell us in the comments, which forgotten 50s horror film creeped you out the most? We're dying to know. 1. The Thing from Another World, 1951. Long before CGI monsters and big-budget alien invasions, The Thing from Another World crept onto screens in 1951 and terrified audiences with a chilling vision of what might lurk in the icy unknown. Set in a remote Arctic outpost, the story follows a group of military personnel and scientists who stumble upon a crashed spacecraft buried deep beneath the snow. What they unearth is no ordinary pilot. It's a towering humanoid creature made of plant-based matter, preserved in ice. But when the ice thaws, the nightmare begins. Unlike the typical horror of its time, this film didn't rely on gothic castles or slow-building suspense. It was urgent, loud, and modern. The Thing wasn't just scary, it was intelligent, resilient, and almost unstoppable. Tension soars as paranoia spreads through the isolated base. Who's in charge? Who's next? Can this otherworldly monster be reasoned with or destroyed? Directed by Christian Nibby, with uncredited direction from producer Howard Hawks, the film's fast-paced dialogue, claustrophobic tension, and bold use of science fiction themes helped redefine horror. It laid the groundwork for decades of man versus alien narratives, inspiring filmmakers like John Carpenter, whose 1982 remake The Thing became a classic in its own right. Often overshadowed today, The Thing from Another World was a game-changer in its era, ushering in the golden age of sci-fi horror and proving that sometimes, the real terror comes not from what we see, but what we can't control. 2. Fiend Without a Face, 1958. The Invisible Terror. In a sleepy Canadian town, near a remote U.S. Air Force base, strange deaths begin to haunt the locals. Victims are found lifeless, faces frozen in terror, skulls cracked open and brains missing. The authorities are baffled, until suspicion turns to the nearby base where secret nuclear experiments are underway. But the horror is far worse than anyone imagined. Invisible creatures, born from sheer mental energy, have been unleashed by a rogue scientist's telekinetic experiments gone wrong. At first unseen, these fiends eventually take horrifying shape, pulsating brain-like monsters with long spinal cords that crawl and leap with terrifying speed. They suck the life from their victims, and they're multiplying. Fiend Without a Face was ahead of its time, blending Cold War paranoia with groundbreaking stop-motion effects that terrified audiences. Its eerie silence, sudden attacks, and grotesque monsters turned this British-American co-production into a cult classic that helped redefine creature horror in the atomic age. 3. Invasion of the Saucer Men, 1957. The teenagers who fought aliens with headlights. This 1957 gem isn't just a slice of sci-fi horror. It's a time capsule of 1950s teenage rebellion, with aliens. Invasion of the Saucer Men brought something bizarrely fresh to the screen. Pint-sized aliens with oversized veiny heads, needle-like fingers, and glowing eyes. But what made it truly unforgettable? It was one of the first films where teenagers, not scientists or the military, saved the day. That's right. No lab coats, no generals, just a couple of small-town kids and their car headlights. The story kicks off when a young couple stumbles upon a crashed flying saucer in the woods. From there, things spiral into a weirdly funny and suspenseful ride involving alien mind control, accidental deaths, and a cow that gets hypnotized. Yes, really. A cow. The film mixes campy humor with creepy paranoia, capturing the atomic age anxiety and the rise of teen culture all at once. It paved the way for later movies like The Blob and Gremlins, proving that horror could be fun, fast, and even a little ridiculous, without losing its punch. Once laughed off as drive-in fluff, Invasion of the Saucermen is now a beloved cult classic that helped redefine horror's rules in the 1950s. 4. The Vampire 1957, Science Gone Horribly Wrong. In the shadowy corners of 1950s horror, The Vampire 1957 quietly reinvented a classic monster. Set in a sleepy small town, this eerie gem follows Dr. Paul Beecher, a respected physician who accidentally consumes experimental pills made from vampire bat blood, thinking they were ordinary headache medication. But the consequences? Pure nightmare fuel. As the drug courses through his veins, the good doctor becomes a nocturnal predator, unaware of his monstrous transformation until it's far too late. Victims turn up drained of blood. Clues point to something unnatural. But no one suspects the quiet town doctor, least of all himself. Unlike the Gothic castles of Dracula, The Vampire rooted its horror in the everyday, an early forerunner of the science gone wrong subgenre. Instead of supernatural curses, this film tapped into 1950s fears of unchecked scientific progress, pharmaceutical dangers, and the thin line between man and monster. While often overshadowed by bigger titles, The Vampire was a quiet revolution, blending mad science, addiction allegories, and psychological horror long before it became standard in the genre. This wasn't just another vampire movie. It was a mutation of the mythos, and a haunting reminder. Sometimes the real monster hides behind a stethoscope. 5. The Man Who Turned to Stone 1957. The chilling secret of eternal youth, at a horrifying cost. Buried deep in the shadows of 1950s horror is a forgotten tale of science, sacrifice, and stone-cold terror. The Man Who Turned to Stone isn't just another B-movie. It's a gothic mystery wrapped in mad science, echoing the same paranoia and fear of aging that haunted a post-war America obsessed with youth and beauty. Set in a bleak girls' reformatory, the story unfolds with unexplained deaths and drained corpses. Young women are mysteriously dying, but their bodies show no signs of illness, only a complete loss of vitality. When a new staff member grows suspicious, she uncovers a ghastly secret. The asylum is run by centuries-old scientists who discovered the secret to eternal life by draining the life force from others. One by one, the scientists themselves begin turning to stone, a side effect of their twisted immortality. It's a race against time to stop the soulless experiments before the whole institution turns into a tomb of the petrified. Though shot on a modest budget, The Man Who Turned to Stone delivered haunting atmosphere, social commentary, and an early sci-fi horror hybrid that paved the way for later films exploring the cost of immortality. Today, it's a hidden gem that deserves a second look, especially for fans of vintage horror with a cerebral twist. 6. The Werewolf 1956. The first sci-fi werewolf. Long before the genre mashups of today, The Werewolf 1956 dared to do something radical. It fused horror with science fiction. This wasn't your classic gothic curse tale. Instead, the monster was a man named Duncan Marsh, transformed not by ancient folklore, but by a sinister scientific experiment gone wrong. The story unfolds in a quiet mountain town, where a mysterious drifter begins transforming into a savage beast under the full moon. But unlike the traditional werewolves of silver bullets and gypsy curses, Duncan's condition stems from radioactive serums injected by rogue scientists trying to create a human that could survive nuclear fallout. The experiment worked, but at a horrific cost. What set the werewolf apart was its bold commentary on Cold War fears. In an era terrified of nuclear war, the film turned science into the new source of horror. Duncan isn't a villain. He's a victim of scientific ambition and governmental secrecy. This added a tragic layer to the monster myth and changed how audiences saw the creature feature. Though it flew under the radar at the time, The Werewolf quietly paved the way for horror films that question the dangers of science and the ethics of experimentation, decades before it became a trend. A true cult classic that deserves a howl of recognition. 7. The Monster That Challenged the World, 1957. In the sun-scorched Salton Sea of California, something ancient has awakened. Something colossal and crawling from the depths of a radioactive nightmare. When a routine Navy mission stumbles upon a bizarrely decomposed body, Lieutenant John Twillinger is sent to investigate. What he finds isn't just a fluke. It's the first sign of a prehistoric horror that's about to burst from the seabed. A race of monstrous mollusk-like creatures, mutated by atomic radiation and now hungering for human flesh. As the giant beasts terrorize the canals and military bases around the Salton Sea, the film turns into a relentless race against time. With the aid of a scientist and a civilian woman, Twillinger must track the creatures to their underground lair before they multiply and spread beyond containment. Blending Cold War paranoia, creature feature thrills, and military sci-fi, the monster that challenged the world might sound like a B-movie on the surface, but it broke new ground with its surprisingly effective special effects and eerie underwater sequences. Unlike many rubber-suit monsters of the era, these terrifying titans had real weight and left a lasting impact on the evolution of creature horror in cinema. This forgotten gem helped set the template for the underwater horror genre, influencing everything from Jaws to The Abyss. It's a monster movie with real teeth, literally and figuratively. 8. The Crawling Eye, 1958. Terror from the Fog. Hidden among the swirling mists of the Swiss Alps, The Crawling Eye, also known as the Trollenberg Terror, introduced 1950s audiences to a whole new kind of horror, intelligent alien creatures that weren't just out for blood, but out for your mind. It all begins when a group of mountain climbers starts mysteriously disappearing on Trollenberg Mountain. But what's causing their gruesome deaths isn't human. It's something far more sinister. A giant tentacled-eye creature, lurking inside a radioactive cloud that never leaves the mountaintop. This alien parasite doesn't just kill. It controls, turning people into mindless murderers before they even know they're under its spell. This British-American co-production might seem like low-budget camp today, but in 1958, it terrified viewers with its surreal atmosphere, ahead-of-its-time special effects, and a plot that blended Cold War paranoia with Lovecraftian horror. Its creepy fog-covered setting inspired decades of horror films, from John Carpenter's The Fog to The X-Files. And here's a fun twist. The Crawling Eye was the very first movie ever riffed on by Mystery Science Theater 3000, giving it legendary cult status in horror history. One Eye, One Mountain, Endless Nightmares. 9. The Magnetic Monster, 1953. Science meets suspense in a forgotten classic. In the atomic age of the 1950s, fear of science gone wrong was everywhere, and the magnetic monster tapped into that anxiety like a live wire. This sci-fi horror gem follows government agents from the Office of Scientific Investigation, yes, the OSI, as they investigate bizarre magnetic anomalies wreaking havoc across the globe. Planes are crashing, clocks stop ticking, and metallic objects fly across rooms with terrifying force. The cause? A radioactive isotope called omega, an unstable element that not only feeds on energy, but grows stronger and hungrier by the hour. The film's true horror lies in its realism. Presented almost like a scientific procedural, The Magnetic Monster was a slow-burning thriller that didn't rely on rubber monsters or alien invasions. Instead, it terrified audiences with the possibility that mankind's own experiments could spin out of control, and that science, while powerful, might not always be safe. Though overlooked today, the film was groundbreaking. It used actual scientific dialogue, cutting-edge effects for its time, and a gripping finale in an underground Canadian reactor that paved the way for more grounded, cerebral science fiction. And let's not forget, it was one of the earliest films to frame scientists as heroes in horror, not just creators of disaster. If you've never seen The Magnetic Monster, it's time to rediscover this magnetic force of 1950s cinema. 10. Not of This Earth, 1957, The Alien Among Us. In the golden age of sci-fi horror, Not of This Earth crashed onto the scene with a strange, silent menace from another world, and it's still creeping out cult film lovers to this day. Directed by the legendary Roger Corman, this low-budget 1957 gem introduced viewers to a mysterious man with sunglasses, indoors, all the time. Why? Because he wasn't human. He was an alien emissary from the planet Davana, sent to Earth in desperate need of human blood. What made Not of This Earth stand out wasn't just its eerie atmosphere or unsettling villain. It was how it fused paranoia, Cold War fear, and classic monster horror with a twist of quiet madness. The alien didn't arrive in a flying saucer. He walked among us undetected, polite, and deadly. Like many B-movies of the 50s, it was made fast and cheap, but its creepy tone and original premise gave it a staying power no one expected. Even decades later, filmmakers still point to this movie as a turning point in horror sci-fi. A film that proved you don't need flashy effects to create unforgettable fear. And believe it or not, it was remade twice, proving its eerie legacy never really left Earth. And there you have it, 10 spine-chilling horror gems from the 1950s that helped shape the genre forever. Forgotten by many, but unforgettable once you've seen them, these cult classics remind us that true terror never ages. Which one gave you goosebumps? Was it the silent alien of Not of This Earth, the radioactive terror of them? Or something even stranger? Let us know in the comments. We love hearing your favorites. And hey, if you haven't subscribed to Globewise Entertainment yet, now's the perfect time. We bring you the weird, the wonderful, and the wildly underrated side of Hollywood history. Subscribe, like, and hit that bell so you never miss a forgotten classic again. Until next time, keep the screams rolling.